Hey friends, this is Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous, where we talk about pop culture through the lens of race or gender, and sometimes both. Carly Adams is back, and today we're talking about Camille from Parenthood. If you understand the nuances and intersections of being a BIPOC woman, a woman identifying, a woman in a male-dominated industry, and all the microaggressions that come with the daily existence and how media reinforces those stereotypes, but you still love pop culture, then Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous Best Friends Club on Patreon is just for you. Join an incredible community of like-minded individuals who meet monthly to discuss a different topic in pop culture, access to bonus content, weekly lunchtime hangout sessions, and discounts on merch. To learn more about how to become a part of the Best Friends Club, visit popculturemakesmejealous.com/become a member. There's a hyphen in between become a member. Become -a-member. See you there. Parenthood the TV show debuted March 2nd, 2010 on NBC and introduced America to the Bavermans, a reimagining of the Ron Howard 1989 film of the same name. This show follows Camille and Zeek and their 4 adult children, Adam, Sarah, Julia, and Crosby. Each child has their own life, but the anchors are mom and dad. But before we dive in, let's re-meet our guest. Carly Adams is here again. If this is your first time tuning in with us, let me tell you about Carly. She's a home organizer based in Sacramento, California, and owner of Tidy Revival. She has been featured on previous episodes like Moxie, 10 Things I Hate About You, and She's All That. She's also a Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous Patreon member, and she's my friend in real life. So obviously, I'm always excited when she's here and that she's back again. Welcome to the show, Carly.
Thank you, Jules. I am absolutely thrilled to be here. Per usual, this is one of my favorite places to hang out. So thank you so much.
Oh, I love that. Sometimes I feel like, what are some topics that I can send to Carly so we can have more recorded friend dates?
Same.
It's super fun. I love it.
No, I love it. I'm like very, very happy that you are doing this. I love your show. I'm a genuinely huge fan. Love being on it. Love telling people about it. Love everything about it.
Yes, friends at home, I did pay Carly to say that. No, I didn't.
No, but seriously, join Patreon because there's even more fun and you're missing out.
That's also true. So since you've been on the season before already, and our kickoff question is, about like what you grew up thinking about money or what you thought of wealthy women. I think the last time you were here, you focused more on the messages of money when you were a kid. So do you remember what you thought of like wealthy women when you were a kid?
That is an excellent question. Yeah, I think I feel like I didn't really put things together, or like, and I know I mentioned this last time too. I know that some people had more money than other people, and I put it together at some point that like I didn't necessarily have, we didn't have as much as my parents would have liked when I was younger. But it wasn't like a shame. There wasn't like a shame around it. You know what I mean? It wasn't it wasn't
we're
like
poor. I'm a parent.
The haves and the have-nots. I never remember feeling like that.
That's good. Do you remember like what symbols you took from pop culture as being signs of wealth, if any?
This isn't really pop culture, but I remember being with a friend. I remember being a friend. We were like at Taco Bell with their parents, and parents are like, "Okay, get whatever you want." Oh, and actually, I think I might have said like, "Okay, so how like what's my spend limit?" And they were like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "Just get whatever you want." I'm like, "Whatever on the whole menu."
Yeah,
you're crazy. You're crazy.
You mean I don't have to limit to the dollar menu?
I mean, it was like I could do simple math when I was a kid because I was like, all right, what $5? All right, I got it. Like,
Yeah.
and then, you're figuring it out, but they were like, yeah, get whatever you want. And I just thought that, like, my head exploded. I was like, I don't even know what to take from this conversation anymore, guys. Like,
yeah. Like, what does that even, I mean, I know what it means now as an adult, but as a kid, you're probably like, what does that even mean? Because
oh
we
my God,
were similar. Like,
Mhm.
we were only one kid was allowed to have the clothing allowance a month. My mother had to clothe 3 children, which meant I never got anything new unless my auntie bought it for me or my grandma.
Yeah.
Because
We
how do you
had,
clothe like $50 a month for like, even
come
in
on.
the 80s, I feel like wasn't enough to clothe one kid.
No. When we had 4 kids, I was the oldest. People were like, oh, so you got the no clothes. Now I got the neighbors' hand-me-downs, like from church. And I
Yeah.
was stoked.
Yeah.
I was never, feeling like, why can't I have the blah, blah, blah. I was so stoked for whatever I had. My parents were really good about teaching us about gratitude from an early age. And
Oh, that's
so,
nice.
yeah. And I mean, looking back, it really doesn't feel like, it just feels like it was a nice lesson that I'm
Mhm.
happy that I learned.
Yeah.
There's not any like, weird negativity around it. It's not like be grateful. It's just like, it was just, yeah, we're thankful for what we have. And I felt pretty like happy go lucky when I was a kid. It wasn't until, you reach like, I think like 8th grade was a turning point for me. 8th grade, I decided that I wanted to be popular. And
Oh.
like I was on a mission. And if
Oh.
anybody remembers me, like if anyone listens to this and they remember me from like 7th grade to like 9th grade, if they like remembered me in 8th grade, I think they might be like, yeah, that tracks. I think my sisters definitely would, because I was like, I was in it. I was like, what are the cool things to say? What are the cool things to wear? Who are the cool things people to hang out with? I want
Yeah.
it.
And
I'm
then
in.
you joined band.
Yeah, because I wanted to be a cool kid.
I'm sorry.
But
You thought
listen,
joining band would make you a cool kid?
I'm going to tell
Please,
you,
friends at home know I'm saying that from the lens of 1999. Okay, go ahead. You're going to tell me what?
I'm going to tell you probably when I peaked in 8th grade. And it was this moment, and this stemmed from band. So I'm going to argue that it was cool, because
Okay.
this was the coolest thing I've ever done in my entire life, maybe.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
When I was in 8th grade, and we didn't go to the same middle school as guys, but Julie and I met in high school. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
when I was in 8th grade, I sang No Doubt Spiderwebs in front of the entire school at an assembly that they made us go to watch a band made of teachers play. But this kid in band was like, I have an idea. We should plant Carly in the audience. I wasn't even supposed to be at school. I was off track because we had year-round school.
Yeah,
I was off track.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the audience, and they're like, now we're going to sing a song, and we need a volunteer. And I like raised my hand, and they picked me because I'm planted. And then I came up and sang it, and it felt pretty good. So I would argue band does make you cool as hell.
I would like to know what the audience members thought of that performance from all those years ago.
I will track down 2 people that I know for sure remember it.
Okay.
And I'm like going to do that after this. And I'll say,
have them submit a quote.
I will. And please make sure to put it in the notes.
Obviously.
I'm
We're
writing this
gonna
down.
put that into the marketing strategy for this episode.
Please see that you do.
Wait, I'm so excited.
Woo! All right. Well, now that we've sorted that out.
Yeah. I don't think I asked you this last time. As a child, did you have any women in your life that were wealthy, but you didn't quite understand, or like didn't quite understand it?
100%.
Did I ask you this question already?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
No.
So go ahead.
And I loved it. So we definitely had at least a couple family members, like on, one on each side, that I know for sure are like self-made millionaires.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah. And I did not, when I say self-made, it's because, I know the rest of the family. Like this was
Right.
not handed down.
Right. Like that wasn't like live in this house for free that we gave you for free kind of situation. So you don't have to worry
No.
about paying a mortgage so you can make yourself like, because there's varying degrees of how people can like access wealth to uplift family members, but self-made, I think, is like scrappy.
Oh yeah. I mean, like one of my family members, like I knew he was like shining shoes when he was a kid. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and he was working from a young age. Yeah, self-made. And I didn't really realize it until, oh gosh, probably college. They like put that together. I'm like, oh, okay, 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 all right. I get it. I get it. And I think a lot of it was like real estate investing, which leads back to this episode.
Yeah. And that's what everyone tells you to do to get a come up.
It's crazy.
But it's really hard to get into it.
Oh, yeah, man. I packed lunch for like 5 years. So, yeah.
So the short answer, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
And you didn't quite get it until you were an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can appreciate that because like when I asked the question about status of wealth symbols, the obvious ones, nice cars.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Good neighborhoods.
Uh-huh.
I used good neighborhood. I put air quotes around good neighborhoods for friends listening at home.
Yeah.
Always having like Nikes, like, it was like, oh, these are just the newest Nikes. Like, what? You don't have the newest Nikes kind of attitude, yeah.
Or
that
like
kind of stuff.
Versus me wearing my friends' hand-me-down Fila's in 8th grade that were a half size too small. And I was like, I'll make it work.
Yeah. I mean, we were frequenters of Payless Shoe Source. May it rest in peace. And I think now as an adult, there's certain things where I understand now what it means to be car poor, house poor. And also investing in like quality clothing is actually more cost effective than buying the cheap shit, but it's harder to invest in the quality clothing because it means more money right now.
Well, yeah. And especially when kids grow so quick, man. Yeah, I think when I was, I know I mentioned this on the last episode, but like, my parents and I also, do the math of how old they were when I was like growing up and stuff. But yeah, we definitely were doing better financially. We had reached a different economic status when I was in middle school, but I couldn't just like have whatever I wanted. So when I was in 8th grade, I like begged my parents for an Adidas, those Adidas puffy jackets.
Those were all the fucking rage, girl.
And I think I had
with
to like
the shell
save
toe
up.
heart shoes.
I think there might have been a removable like hood. It was very puffy, and I had a navy and white one, and I got it, and it was amazing. I loved it so much. I loved it. And I also begged them for a Jordan jersey, which if anyone knows me, like I do not watch basketball. I never have. I probably never will. And it's not that I don't, respect the game. I just don't really have an interest, but Jordan was like everything back then. I was like, please. And they were like, what are you talking about? No. And I was like, but it's so cool. And they're like, like, that's very
it's dumb. Like $120 back in 1998. So
for our daughter, who's literally never, ever, ever put on a basketball game. Like, absolutely not.
If you understand the nuances and intersections of being a BIPOC woman, a woman identifying, a woman in a male-dominated industry, and all the microaggressions that come with the daily existence and how media reinforces those stereotypes, but you still love pop culture, then Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous Best Friends Club on Patreon is just for you. Join an incredible community of like-minded individuals who meet monthly to discuss a different topic in pop culture, access to bonus content, weekly lunchtime hangout sessions, and discounts on merch. To learn more about how to become a part of the Best Friends Club, visit popculturemakesmejealous.com/become a member. There's a hyphen in between become a member. become-a-member. See you there. We have merch. Visit popculturemakesmejealous.com/merch to purchase today. Some hoodies and t-shirts are the pop culture staples, but you don't want to miss out on our seasonal collections, whether it's specific to the show or a season. Catch those limited edition styles before they're gone. Visit popculturemakesmejealous.com/merch to shop and use promo code SHOPPOD to receive 15% off your first order. That's SHOPPOD. Be sure to tag us on social wearing your swag. We're looking for advertising partners. When you support the podcast, you're supporting a woman-owned BIPOC small business. We're looking for other small business partners who want to get in front of an audience of like-minded folks looking to smash the patriarchy and make cultural change. Email popculturemakesmejealous@gmail.com to get started. One of the quickest and easiest ways to support our show is by subscribing, rating, and reviewing our podcast on Apple Podcasts. Sharing with other users why you love this show and reasons to tune in is a simple kindness that will forever go appreciated by Team Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous. I'm going to be honest, writing a review is the strongest move because when you write a review, it helps that pesky algorithm tell Apple this show is loved. Like, subscribe, and leave a review. Thanks for all your support, friend. Do you love to read? Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous hosts a monthly book club that reads books that have been adapted for the screen. We meet on the fourth Sunday of every month via Zoom. The book club is open to anyone, but Patreon pals can vote on our monthly read and have access to our replay. To sign up, hit the link in the show notes. Camille and Zeek Bavermans live in Berkeley, California. Their home is in the hills and is on a large property. We know they raised their 4 children in this home. According to Redfin, at the time of this recording, the average median house price is $1.6 million in Berkeley, California. The average home in the 1960s, this is a national statistic. This isn't isolated to Berkeley. But the average home in the 1960s was about $12,000. And according to CNBC, adjusted for inflation in 2018, that's roughly $98,000. Wow. So
that's wild.
Housing's clearly out of control.
Mm-hmm.
For those not familiar with California, it clearly gets pricey here, and it's been pricey for quite some time. More than the average costs in other states, but owning property can help leverage and change your wealth status. The Bavermans themselves vary in socioeconomic status. So let's dive into the matriarch. Camille is a painter. She's an artist. She's calm and patient. Even with adult children, she still manages to maintain the same level of expectations as when her kids were little. A fully stocked fridge, baking treats. The house is ready to receive guests almost at any time. So when you first watched this show, what did you think of Camille?
I love this show so much. I was a loyal watcher. And I've watched the whole thing again too, but I didn't rewatch for this because Parenthood burned in my mind. And
it's so many seasons. Like, who's got time to watch the entire series?
It's a lot
before an hour and a half recording.
Plus so many tears, like so many tears. So I love Camille because straight off the bat, they place her as a complicated and complex character, which I absolutely loved because it just kind of set the tone for the whole show.
Yeah.
Like, you're not like, from day one, it's not Camille's perfect. Oh, wait, she's not perfect. It's just like she's a complicated woman. She's got her own backstory. Her and Zeek are kind of on the rocks. That was a big thing in season 1. And they just didn't have the most communicative of marriages, and there was some infidelity, and they just really got into it. And I also established that there were a lot of things that she gave up to be a mom that she wanted to make sure that she took the time to focus on herself because she was in her third act. But yeah, I love that she's warm and she's nurturing, but super complex.
And it's interesting too, because to be in that position, you know, your comment about how she gave up a lot to be the mom that she was. And that's so that generation, right? Like, we can assume that they probably bought their home sometime in the 60s or the 70s because of the age of the children, of their adult children. So they're already at some sort of advantage because they're at the right place at the right time. And I always kind of felt for her because she clearly wanted to flourish in some sort of artistic career, and it had to remain a hobby.
Yeah, had to remain a hobby. And you definitely got the distinct impression, especially in the beginning, that Zeke didn't truly understand what that meant to her. And that she'd kind of been harboring some resentment about that too.
Yeah.
That kind of comes to a head. But yeah, it was very much like, I've put a lot on the back burner and now I need to take care of me, and everyone needs to like get on board or get out of my way.
Yeah, and I love that because I think that's kind of the first time we see it in television where it's done in a way that feels like what I was seeing play out in real life.
Yes. Yes. Specifically with parents who ended up getting married young, having kids quickly, and probably at some point or another deciding to stay together because of the kids. And, you know, things were very rocky in the beginning, in the first season of Parenthood. And you did really get, you know, you got nervous for the whole family. Like, were they not going to make it? Was this it? And you could tell that she just had been bottling up a lot and was just she was like almost at the breaking point of the marriage. And a lot of it had to do with, yeah, the artistic side of herself that didn't get to do all the things that she would have wanted to take a chance on.
And that ripple effect of divorcing after 35, 40 years is totally different than when you divorce when your children are super little, because when they're little, that just becomes normal. You're not sort of feeling like your parents just lived a lie, because you get to see your parents become independent people of each other. And like I said, that becomes normal. But in adulthood, when you think about it, with parents sort of split up, even later than if you're in your 20s when your parents split up. I mean, like, Adam has a teenage daughter. So did Sarah. I mean, you know, and Julia's kids were little. Crosby, whatever is Crosby. But like, even at that point, so like, you've left the nest and now you're established with your own family and your own family dynamic and supporting your own family in whatever way, and then your anchor completely disintegrates. Like, that would be huge too for them. Like, that would rock their kids, I think, a little bit harder, because then it's now like, well, how do we learn new at this stage?
That would rock their world. And I think to like a large extent, it did, when they kind of realized that things weren't as stable as they had just imagined and assumed that things aren't. And I think too, that's interesting because a lot of times in shows like this, it could be the easy way out to have the grandparents as like supporting characters and not really fully flesh them out. So for them to go super deep and just establish them as the anchors of the family and have it really be a show about the whole family, not just the siblings, but like every single person, I just thought was really, really interesting and very cool.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing I was thinking about too, want, because I think about this all the time, because, you know, like home ownership is a thing that I feel like is out of my reach in this current climate, probably now forever. Unless I hit it big. You know, but another element to them, if they if their relationship had ended, and I saw this a lot, so I don't know if you saw this a lot. You know, you divide the assets, you basically like agree to sell the home during the divorce, and then you split whatever is left. And you know, it's like we're told all the time that's so tacky to talk about money and like what people get out of money and and like all these things. But when you think about it, like we talked about, you know, a really good path to put yourself in a good financial position is by owning property. And so had they been divorced and they sold that house, I think they did sell the house by the end of the series, right? Because didn't they move into the city?
I think they sold the house at the very end, but I think maybe they were, oh gosh.
Because Camille wanted to move into she wanted to actually live that more fulfilled life, and Zeek was content with being like, you know, hidden up in the hills and whatever, and that was a point of contention.
Barn garage.
Yeah, and she wanted more of a vibrant lifestyle, and I get that, because, you know, when you're in San Francisco proper, you have like the opportunity to walk around, and there's like neighborhoods, blah blah, you know. But had they been divorced, it was like she could totally live off of that money from just half of the sale.
Yeah, and you'd almost, I mean, especially if you buy it for, let's say that they bought it for $100,000 in the 70s.
Yeah.
And then they're selling it because it's not even just, there's like the little guest house and then the like barn garage and then a very large place. And then they have kind of like a lawn situation. Like it's
the backyard was massive because they were always out there having these gorgeous family dinners.
Oh yeah. With like the outdoor, just wood furniture outside. Definitely no rain issues. But they've got the barn to like put it in. Anyway, I think about that way too much. That's something that I think about all the time. I'm like,
the rain or the barn?
The rain.
Yeah.
I'm like, so did you move it in like seasonally or? And I'm like,
it doesn't rain here, Carly.
It used to.
Yeah. I guess it rained more in 2010 than it does now. Oh, R.I.P. rain.
Oh my God. And in Berkeley too, like, you know, things just warp faster with the fog.
Yeah, because there's there's moisture in the air.
Yeah. Things just get like wood furniture would just get green and like mossy. It's
gross.
Yeah, it's gross. So that's why I thought about it all the time. Anyway, feel free to cut all of this out. If they sold it now, what would that be? Like for $4 million?
Millions of dollars.
Like millions of dollars.
Multiple millions of dollars. And we can assume by the time they're retired, they don't have a mortgage.
Yeah. And one of them wouldn't be able to buy the other person out.
Right. Did we ever learn what Zeek did in his working life? Because I know he was a vet, right? Like he was a vet.
Yep. He was a vet. And he was a transponder.
Okay, Rachel Green.
I don't know what he did.
I don't know if they ever talked about it.
I don't know.
Or at least they didn't talk about it. They did
like all the time. We watch it back.
We're like, remember. It's like the one thing we can't remember. I was gonna say I feel like they didn't talk about it enough for it to stick. Because like you knew that Adam worked in footwear, you knew that Camille wanted to be an artist, you knew that Sarah was hopping around from job to job to job to job, you knew that Crosby worked in the music industry, you knew Julia was a lawyer, like
yeah, yeah, and Zeke's like just retired. That's his story. They're like, him, Zeek. Oh, he's retired.
He's a retired machismo.
He's old school. And he's retired and he yells at people.
All the time with the yelling. Man, Craig T. Nelson is a real good yell.
Oh my gosh. Woo. Between that and Family Stone, I'm like terrified of Craig T. Nelson.
Did you never watch Coach?
No, I didn't really watch Coach. Not really.
He does some yelling in Coach too. I wonder if he was typecast.
That's a good yell.
Because you know what?
Yell.
I just watched Troop Beverly Hills for another episode, and he's kind of a ball buster in that one too.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see
And
them typecasting him for his yell and
height, his
height.
presence. He's got like a very much like
It's a commanding.
that's the word.
Yeah. He's got big boomer energy.
Yes. Oh my God. He so does. But we love him anyway.
Love him so much.
So much.
Love him so much.
If you understand the nuances and intersections of being a BIPOC woman, a woman identifying, a woman in a male-dominated industry, and all the microaggressions that come with the daily existence and how media reinforces those stereotypes, but you still love pop culture, then Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous Best Friends Club on Patreon is just for you. Join an incredible community of like-minded individuals who meet monthly to discuss a different topic in pop culture, access to bonus content, weekly lunchtime hangout sessions, and discounts on merch. To learn more about how to become a part of the Best Friends Club, visit popculturemakesmejealous.com/become a member. There's a hyphen in between become a member. Become-a-member. See you there. We have merch. Visit popculturemakesmejealous.com/merch to purchase today. Some hoodies and t-shirts are the pop culture staples, but you don't want to miss out on our seasonal collections, whether it's specific to the show or a season. Catch those limited edition styles before they're gone. Visit popculturemakesmejealous.com/merch to shop and use promo code SHOPPOD to receive 15% off your first order. That's SHOPPOD. Be sure to tag us on social wearing your swag. We're looking for advertising partners. When you support the podcast, you're supporting a woman-owned BIPOC small business. We're looking for other small business partners who want to get in front of an audience of like-minded folks looking to smash the patriarchy and make cultural change. Email popculturemakesmejealous@gmail.com to get started. One of the quickest and easiest ways to support our show is by subscribing, rating, and reviewing our podcast on Apple Podcasts. Sharing with other users why you love this show and reasons to tune in is a simple kindness that will forever go appreciated by Team Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous. I'm going to be honest, writing a review is the strongest move because when you write a review, it helps that pesky algorithm tell Apple this show is loved. Like, subscribe, and leave a review. Thanks for all your support, friend. Do you love to read? Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous hosts a monthly book club that reads books that have been adapted for the screen. We meet on the fourth Sunday of every month via Zoom. The book club is open to anyone, but Patreon pals can vote on our monthly read and have access to our replay. To sign up, hit the link in the show notes. What do you think about Camille's evolution over the series?
I love how much she finds her voice. I feel like she found a new chapter in her relationship, one that she was going to be happy with, instead of like kind of putting up with things for the sake of everyone else. And I really, really love that because I think that we need to see more of that specifically from the generation right before us.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes a lot, especially in this current era, we do forget boomer women still had to fight and struggle, and still a lot of them still conformed to what was the expectation, even though there were women in the streets, even though there was Gloria Steinem, even though there was Angela Davis, there still was the overwhelming, you will stay home, you will be the one whose career is affected, you will be the one raising the children, you will be holding everything down, your husband will go to work, and you will still make sure dinner's ready when he gets home. Like, that message was still very heavy for boomers.
And logistically, it was really, I can only imagine how difficult it might have been to imagine anything else, given that we weren't allowed to like have bank accounts by ourselves or credit cards.
Or own property. She couldn't have bought this house without a man.
So it's really like a survival thing, not so much, options. Not so much with the options.
And going out on your own, striking out on your own is really hard and scary. And when you don't have support, it makes it even harder. Like when I think about the way that Gloria Steinem still gets treated to this day, like, yes, now Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z praise her, but 50 years ago, there was a very small fraction of people who thought she was actually doing good work. That's hard.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
They were still asking when your last menstrual cycle was in the 70s on applications.
For jobs?
Like that was a real thing because they wanted to know, because that's a way to, are you going to be pregnant? Like we need to know how fertile you are in case you get pregnant.
I can't with this. There's so many things that I think are very easy to take for granted about our age. It's like a very luck of the draw situation.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I would love to think like, I wouldn't put up with this shit. I'm like, if that's just like how life is.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. I've been in situations where things have happened and people have said, you need to tell HR. HR is not for me. HR isn't here to protect me. They are here to protect a very specific group of people in this organization. And if I go and I report this to HR, I'm the one losing my job. I'm the one getting blackballed. I'm the one having the smear campaign against, and I'm the only person with income to feed my child and make sure we have a roof over our head. So like those two, like I literally have two shitty choices. So I make the shitty choice that causes the less damage to my household.
That's the right answer.
But a lot of people get very self-righteous about that kind of situation. Not like specifically me, reporting to HR, but when we forget that if both choices are shitty, people like, just because people have choices doesn't mean they're good choices. Doesn't mean the options are good.
It doesn't mean that those choices are things that you're willing to take a chance on. Especially, 100%.
Do you think that Camille was a positive representation of motherhood? Or woman? Should I say womanhood? I don't even know what to say in that situation.
I mean, the show's called Parenthood.
Yeah.
Whichever one you want. It's your show. Do whatever you want.
Let's say both. Let's start with motherhood first.
I feel like Camille reminds me of a hug personified.
Aww, I love
that. She also just vibe wise reminds me a lot of my own mom.
I can see that.
Like, Julie, my mom.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Right? It's that it's just that same type of it's just the same type of vibe. And that makes me I feel like she just has a presence and I guess, for lack of a better word that I'm thinking of at this moment, aura that just feels very comforting and like you can always like you could just always come to her and give her a hug. She's here with the mom hugs. She's here with a listening ear and some sort of comforting baked good at any moment. And that she's a constant and a rock. And so I think as far as motherhood, I really can't, like, that's what more do you want? What more do you want than Camille Braverman? Come on, guys.
Yeah. And I think that she also is, like you said earlier, because of her complexities, it sort of it shatters the illusion that you have to be a perfect mom. You can still be all of these things, warm, comforting, a big hug, and still have problems and still have needs and still be frustrated. She did not always wear a brave face just to grit her teeth and get through it kind of situation. Like when she has enough, and she lets you know. So I always felt like that was really good balance, because it's not upholding this idea of perfection. She's got moments that feel perfect, but then she's got moments where she's like, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone needs to get in line.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm about to tell you why I'm upset right now. And you're about to listen and understand. And P.S., she's right. Just know that. And just go along with it, because she is right.
Did you know that she's the actress playing Camilla is Bonnie Bedelia?
Mm-hmm.
She is her maiden name is Culkin. Do you know where I'm going with this?
I don't specifically know, but I want to so hard.
She is Macaulay and Kieran Culkin's auntie. But I don't think they have a relationship. But from what it sounds like in interviews and stuff, it doesn't sound like they have a relationship, because it sounds like their dad was a fairly toxic person. And so it doesn't sound like.
So it's
there's
their dad's
sister.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So like it sounds like they have memories from childhood, but it doesn't sound like there's currently a relationship. From interviews that I've heard and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Ironically, 2 movies we watch every Christmas: Home Alone and Die Hard.
Do you think Die Hard's a Christmas movie? Or a movie that takes place during Christmas?
It's not an opinion. It's a fact. I mean, I honestly, I don't care either way, like about the I know it's like a thing. I don't care to like get in the war, but we do watch it every Christmas in our household. That's cute.
You'll have to come down. The State Theater does Home Alone on the big screen.
Ooh.
You'll have to come down.
Is it a double feature? Because we want to make it a double feature, like at our house.
I think they do Die Hard on a different day.
Oh no, sorry, I meant Home Alone 1 and 2. We have a lot of Christmas movies we like to watch.
Well, because like we do double features in the sense of like we'll watch The Sandlot and then we immediately watch Rookie of the Year, and then I immediately, well, it's a triple feature, and then I immediately will watch A League of Their Own. Like you know, so now like we're conditioned. Like the boy the other day was like, I watched The Sandlot, and then I really, really, really wanted to watch the one where the kid breaks his arm and plays in the major league. I was like, oh yeah, Rookie of the Year, because when you were a child, we watched Sandlot, and then I immediately put on Rookie of the Year.
It's like Three Ninjas Kick Back. You can't, and then whatever the third one was.
That's the second Three Ninjas reference that came up today.
Yes,
I was talking about it in another recording.
When was it with Becca?
No, when I was recording with the duo from It's My Screen Time Too, I brought it up.
It's one of my favorite movies from
childhood. Shut up. How did I not know this about you? It is one of my favorite movies from childhood. Okay, I have to have that, I have to have that like it's from childhood. I'll still turn it on. You've
watched it. Yeah, but it did not age well.
No, it sure as shit did not age well. But do I still watch it?
100%. 100%. I'm always trying to peer pressure my nieces and nephews, be like, do we want to watch like Three Ninjas?
But do you think you should expose them to that?
Yes. As a child that played Three Ninjas for like years.
Wait,
absolutely.
Which one of the ninjas did you ever crush on?
I actually don't really want to answer this on the thing because it's too embarrassing.
You have to tell me offline. I won't share it on the podcast. But I'm dying now to know. I am not Camille Braverman in any way, shape, or form. My kitchen's too small to bake in. I fucking hate cooking dinner. I used to blame all the dishes in the sink on him because, you know, kids cycle through dishes so much that you're just like, oh my God, use the same cup in one day. Turns out
It's you.
he doesn't need to be here for me to fill up the sink with dishes.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's rude.
Right? It's all cups.
But cups. But you are like a hug personified.
That is the nicest thing anyone has said to me.
I love you.
I love you too. Not a lot of people would actually agree with you on that, because it does take a lot to break through the tough exterior that I have.
That's why I
Because I
started
don't trust
early.
people. That's why you started early. You caught me before I was jaded and cold-hearted.
Yes.
Who am I kidding? We all know I'm not cold-hearted. I cry at everything. I just put up a very tough exterior to keep the haters out.
I'll just agree with you. Sure. It's very tough.
OMG. How do you think this TV show informed you about your opinions about, like, subtle or otherwise, about wealthy women? Because remember, friends at home, if you've forgotten, because we've sidetracked so much, we are discussing the property wealth of Camille and Zeek Braverman, which is a form of wealth that rarely gets discussed, but is always encouraged to be investment property owners.
Yeah. Okay, so having lived in the Bay Area, or just having ever been to the Bay Area, I'm like, this show is about wealthy people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no question about it. That cannot be up for debate, because if they own that house, which they for sure did, they're wealthy. They're millionaires. But they weren't portrayed as such in the traditional, like, it wasn't a show about wealthy people.
Mm-hmm.
It was a show about wealthy people, but the focus wasn't that. And if anything, it's kind of like, hey, it's every family that lives in a multi-million-dollar property in Berkeley in the hills. But so I just think that it's really interesting, because when we were when you brought it up as a topic, I was just like, yeah, man. It's just really interesting, because I think we've all known people who have had average jobs, but purchase at the right time. And it ends up being kind of a make or break situation. I know somebody who, you know, was a first responder in Marin and has one of the nicest homes I've ever seen in real life.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you get in at the right time and it can be the game changer. And I think that that's really, I honestly kind of wish that they'd talked about it more on the show. Because
because a lot of people tell me now, just hang in there, Julia, the market's gonna turn, things are gonna crash again. I don't know if it'll ever be like it was in, like, during the recession of our generation, where people who did have means were snapping up dirt cheap properties in, like, incredible areas. My neighborhood now wasn't as badly as affected. Homes were still pretty, like, in the 400,000 range, but there were several that did go for like 150, which they're the smaller version, you know, the smaller homes, but still, like, that's kind of huge when you think about 2010 and housing in California. Especially because prior to that, houses down the street from where I live were going for millions of dollars. And now we're back to that. Like, a house just sold down the street from somebody I know for 1.2, which blows my mind, because why would you spend that much money to live in Modesto? Sorry, Modesto. So for me, to finish my point, people are like, it's going to change in 4 years. You'll be able to buy in this neighborhood because, you know, blah, blah. And so, okay, whatever. That conversation, set it aside. What this show reinforced for me was to be stable, was to have, or not even stable, but to add to your, subtly, what the show reinforced subtly to me was owning a home is some sort of financial security. And then when we did Tammy Hackbarth's book club, when we all read We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Roberts, and Rachel Roberts was like, if you're not considering your home as part of your wealth, you need to be. That was just like the driver home of like, oh, like, I literally, because my joke is like, I have no assets. Come at me. I have no assets. Like, you can have my $90,000 student loan debt. You're welcome, because I don't want it anymore. So to see like this comfort that the Bravermans have, because when it comes time to you need additional care, they could sell that home, move into a really nice care facility, still have money left over to leave to their children, yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like that at this present time, the trajectory is that will not be true for me and a lot of people I know.
The housing market is more than just, I want a place to be able to paint the walls whatever color I want. It's so much more than that. And I think that I really do that, like that we're talking about this show specifically in the context of real estate. Because a lot of times it's just the real estate aspect of characters is just kind of glossed over, but this is a big one.
Yeah, the house is 100% a character on the show. There's my dog.
I know. Hi, Joe. But it really, there is no way that didn't propel them into the next level of wealth, and then that set up their children for the same. So even though they took different paths, it just seems like they had a lot of opportunities that they might not have been able to consider had they not had that financial anchor in the first place. Because they could do things, they could, refinance and pay for college, like that sort of stuff. That's just not available if that's not an investment that you made at that specific time to that degree. And who knows, it could have been a larger lot that they sold off at some point, and broke it down. I don't know.
Yeah. You're right. We don't talk enough about what real estate can do to propel people's positions and being, just having access to that. Even having access to that. I know there's programs that help with like down payments, but those can be heavily restricted too on where you can buy and what kind of property and the condition you can buy in and
what you can resell it for. Yeah, I have friends who got into a really good program that allowed them to own their first home, but one of the stipulations is that they can only sell it for either what they bought or like a very, very small percentage.
Whoa.
So it's very interesting because that has to be part of their long-term game plan.
Yeah.
Now their mortgage is very low, but they have to be strategic in the long term because as it has continued to gain so much value in the building that they live in, they can't take advantage of it because it's going to go to somebody in that same program when they sell it.
Right.
So there's always going to be somebody who's, at that getting that affordable housing, which is amazing. Right. But that's the return is that they have to put money away and they can't just like, take advantage of it naturally happening with the real estate investment. They have to be very strategic about it.
That's interesting. I didn't realize things like that existed, which also, again, goes against the grain of what HGTV tells us, which is who cares if this is out of budget? It's got an apartment in the back, buy it for the price, rent out the apartment. You know what I mean? Like the perpetuation of real estate being, how you make more money. While it's true, it's go ahead. You have
but the thing that I feel is a dangerous, slippery slope with that is that if somebody hasn't gone into that real estate investment with a certain buffer that they have financially, they're always 1 month away from being fucked.
Yeah.
1 month. Because if you are between renters,
yeah,
and somebody, you're not getting the traction that you thought you would. If something happens and you're like, oh, I need a new roof. And these are 2 different properties potentially.
yeah,
It's 2 water heaters.
yeah,
It's 4 toilets.
right.
It's 2 sets of plumbing. It's
Stoves, refrigerators, washer,
tree
dryer.
could be like our tree and just trying to like eat our plumbing.
Which is a thing, especially from houses from the 60s,
Anything could happen.
It's just all interesting to me. And I'm with you. Like, I've always maintained, when people rail against homelessness and what that looks like in our current era, I'm always the one who's like, what makes you think that you're not next? Unless you have.
Do you mean like, what are we going to do about all these homeless? Like that sort of, or like, I am tired of looking at like that kind of
That
vibe?
and the high and mighty attitude about how like it could potentially never happen to you.
No.
Like, people have that attitude all the time of like, oh, they were wasteful. They didn't do what they were supposed, like, somehow the blame is on the person, which whatever, again, back to what if I only have 2 shitty choices. But my argument, which is why people think I'm a socialist, is
be a socialist.
I'm nothing. I mean, that's not true, but it's like one of those things where I'm just like, okay, thanks for making an assumption based on something that I just said, because I've lived experience of having lost a job and then not having any money any savings, because I wasn't earning enough to save anything. And if it hadn't been for my family being close by and the ability for them to be able to pay my rent while I looked for a job, because I was only getting like $500 a month in that's not true. I think I was getting like $1,600 a month in unemployment, then I would have been homeless.
Yeah. And $1,600 is not enough for
not in California.
And food and gas for 2 people. Yeah, it's a whole thing. No, totally.
It was a whole thing. So then here I am saying like, oh, like how far out are you that you don't have to worry about having your house repossessed?
I've heard statistics. It's something, and please don't quote me on at home. Just know that this is wrong, but not by a lot. Okay. So just no, please don't quote me and come at me. But I heard it's something, it's like 60% of all Americans have less than $1,000 buffer in the bank.
Oh, I've heard something similar. Like, I've heard, like, the numbers may not be accurate, but the sentiment is.
Thank you. It's a large chunk. I want to say the majority, and the figure is less than $1,000 in the bank.
Yeah.
Which means that most of us are one emergency away from either going into debt or being out on the street.
And sometimes it's not even a fucking emergency. Sometimes it's a scheduled operation that you need to have that suddenly is a huge bill that comes that you thought your insurance was supposed to pay for. Like, that's the thing that really bothers me about this high and mighty attitude about how like people are when it comes to housing, because unless you have a job that pays you millions of dollars a year, the average American can't like survive through it. Like, look at how many people lost their homes during the pandemic. Like, those numbers are staggering. That is proof positive that we aren't doing what we need to be doing to ensure we have our needs met. And by we, I mean capitalism.
Society.
I was having a conversation because my couch has, the cushion won't zipper up anymore. And then when we got the dog, they told us she loves to eat cushions. So then of course I panicked, right? Because I was like, well, I don't want to pay for her surgery because you ate all this stuffing, right? So I was looking for new couches. And then I went online and I was complaining. I was like, why are couches so expensive? Like, I literally just want a couch. And then someone was like, go on Amazon. And I thought everything from Amazon is that I like is still fairly expensive, and the cheaper stuff all says things like this has cancer causing chemicals in it, So,
And the
okay.
reviews are like, this is basically made out of cardboard.
Yeah. So I'm going to pay
Cool.
$200 for something I'm just going to have to replace again because I sat on it too hard.
Yeah.
And so somebody DM'd me and they're like, don't you know everybody puts everything on credit card and we all live maxed out? And that made me panic. I was like, are we all collectively living on credit? Like, so you're telling me that literally nobody makes enough money to support any lifestyle that they choose to be in?
This could be like a larger conversation for like a whole, this could be an episode series, would be like real talk.
Yeah.
You know that a huge part of my story about getting organized in my life included a big financial journey. And when I started it, I was like 30 grand in debt between my student loans and consumer credit cards. So it was about like 5 grand or so in credit cards and the rest was student loans. We do have credit cards, but they're paid off every month now and we're debt free except for our mortgage. It's like no car debt and stuff, but that took so much time and informs a lot of decisions now because the amount of anxiety that I've had, I'm like, I would probably have a heart attack if I like had that again now, like those same feelings at this age.
I get that. But I do like the idea of you coming back and having a conversation about representation of money in general in pop culture and what sort of messages we receive from that and have received from that.
Yeah,
That would, I think, be interesting.
That I know that was a big chunk of, not big, but a chunk of what we talked about in the Sex and the City episode. And yeah, I could talk a lot about financial journey and I'm happy to anytime.
Oh, Brewster's Millions. Have you ever seen Brewster's Millions?
Yeah.
That movie was the confirmation I was looking for to have just enough of millions of dollars so I could live off interest.
Dude, compound interest. What a lesson.
Right.
Compound. Oh my gosh. I know, right? No, that's seriously, that's the dream. You're like, you telling me there can be enough in the bank so I can just stop working? Sign me up, buddy.
So back to parenthood, there's a lot that we could actually probably get into when it comes to parenthood, the different types of motherhood. Like we mentioned, Sarah kind of hops from job to job to job. Julia is an attorney. Christina, Adam's wife, she's a stay-at-home mom. And like even just the financial impacts of all of their choices, we could totally talk about that independently of this conversation. Or just like the family dynamic. Like there's so much to unpack about this show. And it would be interesting because now all the rages is like all these shows that we loved at one point from the 90s and early 2000s are now coming back with cast members talking about each episode and doing like a scene by scene conversation. It'd be really interesting to see if Parenthood would like I would tune into a Parenthood one, I think.
100%. And you haven't even dipped into race at all.
No. Oh my
which
God,
is a big
girl.
thing on this show too.
Because you know why? That's a bigger conversation because there's a lot of things about, because as you and I both know, the Bay Area has more diversity than what Parenthood showed.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I'll never stop being pissed that they recast the baby, the second child of Crosby and Jasmine.
Yeah.
I will never, ever get over that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we all know I got stuff to say about that because nobody believes that I look like my parents. So.
Same. Same.
Carly, thank you for joining me on this ASMR version of Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous.
I am so happy to be here. I really appreciate it. And thank you for letting me talk so much about Three Ninjas and also a little bit about Camille. And I just really appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Will you please tell our friends at home where they can find you if they want to keep up with you online?
Absolutely. You can find me at tidyrevival.com or on all the socials at Tidy Revival. And because it launches at the time of this recording, it launches in 2 days. So I almost forgot it. And you can find me at the Tidy Revival podcast.
Woohoo! And pals, we will link everything in the show notes. So there's absolutely no excuses for you to avoid our guest and her presence and what she does.
And sometimes I'm succinct. So be on the lookout for that too.
Yeah. You know, life's hard after a 20-year high school reunion.
We had a time.
Which there is no evidence online that I existed, that I attended. I was going through the group today and it's like, I am not in. I avoided the group picture. Apparently there's like no evidence except for our crapper snappers, which I'm not loading into the group.
Oh, crappers. I was
for
like,
friends at home, a crapper snapper is when you take a picture of yourself in the mirror of a bathroom.
Which everyone at home needs to know. Don't ask me to do it because I don't know how. And my angles are trash, as everyone reconfirmed.
Told you? Is that what we told you? That your angles were trash?
I also was like, I don't think I'm good at this. You're like, everyone's like, oh my God, no. God, no. No. Somebody else? Anybody else? Anyone else?
That's so funny.
I mean, it was true, but
I didn't think they were that bad when you sent them. Were those ones that maybe Becca took?
Yes.
Okay.
Those are ones that anyone else
took. All right. I was feeling myself that night though, girl. All them pictures where I was like, look at me looking hot. I definitely thought I looked hot.
You did look hot. You do look hot. We all looked hot.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. That was just a fact. For those of you at home, that was a fact.
That was a fact. Maybe I'll post a picture. Maybe we'll see. Okay. Friends, like always, I appreciate you tuning in, and I will see you in the DMs. Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous is written, edited, and produced by me, Julia Washington, and I am fueled by the incredible support system of women who allow me to run ideas, cry, melt down whenever I feel overwhelmed. I also want to do a big shout out to our Patreon community. Thank you for your continued support. It brings me great joy to bring you quality content and monthly get-togethers. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Until next time.